My opponent is Judge Hansman. I was born and raised in the city of Dayton. I'm raising my two daughters in Trotwood. I've been practicing law for 18 years. I'm a public defender, a civil rights advocate, and a community servant. I am running for this position because I believe that all people deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their circumstances. I believe that our bench should be representative of the communities that it serves. And I believe that all people are equal under the law and are entitled to the fair and equitable administration of justice. Currently, our court has one judges who are former public defenders, and we have no women of color sitting in this court. I would like to make this court reflect the richness of our lived and professional experiences, and I would like to have your support in doing that. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to be here with you. I'm Carl Keith, the Montgomery County Auditor, and as it was mentioned earlier, today is my birthday. And to answer the question that I was asked, 66. I am 66 today. Thank you very much. Again, and I am running for my 6th term as Montgomery County Auditor, so I'm glad to be here today. Glad to be able to talk about our offices. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Just one thing before we get into the questions, I just want to be very clear. The Dayton unit, and I know our second vice president, political chair, has already stated this, but now that we're live, I want to make certain everybody hears this. The Dayton unit NAACP is nonpartisan. We're highly political, we're nonpartisan. And, but we do have an obligation to our members and to our constituents to be able to tell people about who in fact supports our issues and who does not support our issues. So I just want to make it very well known that we're nonpartisan, and every single candidate that you see here this evening, every candidate had an opportunity to be here tonight. So if they are not here, it's not because we did not invite them. They're not here because of whatever their reasonings may be. So just want to make that very clear to everyone. Every candidate who has opposition had an opportunity to be here tonight at our candidates forum. Chairman Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Azarati. Mike Turner, Congressman Mike Turner, is our current U.S. representative at Wright Pat Air Force Base, being one of our largest employers in the region. What would you do to create non-defense related jobs in the area so we would not be dependent on defense? Go ahead.
Actually, I do need a microphone. 2 minutes, sorry, thank you, 2 minutes. Mike Turner famously says, I work for the base. Mike Turner is also not a veteran. I'm a veteran. The base is not going to go anywhere. No congressman in his right mind is going to vote against appropriations for base that's in his district. But our economy has been focused, and basically the bedrock here is meds, eds, and feds. That's all we have left. There is a whole lot of things that could be coming here. But instead, we see Intel building a chip factory with billions of your tax dollars in a cornfield in New Albany. We have plenty of space. We have people who used to build trucks. We have the capacity. Now, is there going to be an instant that a junior congressman is going to be able to bring jobs to this community? I'm going to be honest with you, probably not. But I can tell you this, number one, I will be accessible. I stream on YouTube every day at 4, and I welcome input. I plan on continuing it once in Congress. Mike Turner's never had a town hall. I believe there are things that we need to focus to bring inner cities back. We need higher density, new housing. There's a shortage of affordable housing. And without affordable housing, you can't have the workers that can do the jobs. Mass transit. There is no reason today to continue to charge people a fare to get on a public bus in this community. Over 90% of the money comes from the federal government. If you notice, the only free bus in town runs from UD downtown. There is something seriously wrong with how we set this up.
Thank you. Just kind of stay with that theme and ask the candidates running for the Ohio General Assembly. Currently, the Ohio General Assembly has a supermajority in regards to Republicans. You will go in as a minority. I think there are probably, 6 members of the Ohio Senate Democrats, right? Something like that. Operating in the minority, can you work across the aisle, or can you work across the aisle? That's what we want to know. You are elected. Can you work on what we have? Let's start there.
So I'm gonna say yes, I can work across the aisle, but my priority is to represent the people who sent me to Columbus. So if working across the aisle means selling out my constituents, then no, I'm not gonna work across the aisle on a particular issue. For instance, I plan to fight for a woman's right to choose, and I plan to fight against Republican extremism. So if a woman is what to do, I'm not gonna work across the aisle on that at all.
Yeah, I would also work across the aisle as well, but at the end of the day, I'm a public servant and I represent my constituents first. And so I want to serve them and their interests at the end of the day, and that's what's most important. And even if, I think we have a strong chance to crack the supermajority, and the Democrats won't be in the minority anymore, since there's some great candidates running in competitive districts. But even short of that, there's a lot that state representatives can do short of legislation. You're given a platform, you're given a bully pulpit to use, and I think state representatives can use that more and more to push the conversation and move the needle even short of legislation. So even if Democrats are in the minority, I would keep using that bully pulpit and that platform to fight on behalf of my constituents and their issues and needs.
So I strongly agree with both of my colleagues here. And one of the things that I thought about was, of course, I would work on bipartisan legislation. And of course, I would not go against what I believe is the right thing. Women need choice, and we need fair housing, and we need free K, and we need just a whole plethora. And a lot of the things that have been going on in the State House have sold out the environment, have sold out schools, have sold out housing, have sold out access to food safety and so forth. But one of the things that I think about is that Democrats could very easily create legislation and then just keep it on a shelf. Because in the meantime, in these next coming 2 years, we really need to work on getting candidates into to run for office. We need to have Democrats, independents running for office against these draconian Republicans that are creating laws that are going against individual rights. So I would definitely work on a bipartisan level if it's the right thing to do, if it's the right legislation. But I also think that we can create legislation that can be put on hold and can wait for the next cycle. Thank you.
Thank you. County Commission candidates. A lot of concern about blight in West Dayton and in the African American or Black community. What can you or have you done as a county commissioner to address the blight in West Dayton and Dayton View? They call Dayton View West Dayton too, so I don't know what this is. But anyway, in the African American or Black community.
Well, I have been on that mission for now, I guess, 16 years. Because when I first came in as treasurer, the situation we had, remember, predatory lending back in those days. And we had thousands and thousands of homes that were vacant and abandoned, and people were really robbed of their wealth because your house is often your wealth, and they were targeted, and we've seen the redlining. So we know it was real and it was vicious. So starting back then, I worked for the legislation to create a land bank so we could get the authority. And a land bank is a public nonprofit that is given special powers that you would never give to a private business, because the bottom line for a land bank is the community's common good. So I worked for the legislation. I then established it here in Montgomery County. I was its first executive director, and then we eventually hired, that was 11 years ago. But as county commissioner, I have stayed on the land bank board, and I chair that board. Now, what does that all mean? I am telling you that we have taken down literally thousands of houses, not just in West Dayton, but certainly in a huge concentration. And our first Thriving Neighborhoods initiative was in the Pine View neighborhood. We set out to that, and that was different than just demolishing. Yes, we demolished 10 houses, but we also rehabbed, I believe, 4, because if you rehab 4 and bring it up, it helps all the other houses. And we were successful in those initiatives, and we raised, so that we put, I believe it was raised at $30,000 in that neighborhood. So we were in a way putting wealth back into the hands and of those who lived in those neighborhoods. And we have continued to do that. We have really, really worked on that for a long time. And I have to stop.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
To the judicial candidates, a lot of us have read Michelle Alexander's book. The criminal justice system being the new Jim Crow. What's your opinion about Michelle Alexander's book? The criminal justice system being the new Jim Crow.
Well, I cannot speak directly to the book. I have not read the book. And I'm not gonna stand up here and act like I have. But what I will tell you is, after being a prosecutor for as many years as I was a prosecutor and now being a judge, I see the makeup of the people that come through the court system. And I do believe that I understand how there can be a perception that it would be the new Jim Crow. I, on the other hand, see how many defendants come into my courtroom. I had a docket this morning, and I can tell you of the people sitting in custody, it was approximately 50-50. I had just as many white defendants as I had African-American defendants. And in my courtroom, I treat everyone as equal as I can based on their circumstance. Each person is judged in my courtroom based on what they have been convicted of, what their prior criminal history may be, and the type of charge that it is plays a big part in that. I believe wholly that people that are committing nonviolent offenses should not be held sitting in jail. People that are committing violent offenses for the safety of the public and potentially the victims in those particular cases should probably have a higher bond and be sitting in jail for the safety of the public and the people around those individuals. However, when it comes to sentencing, I believe everyone should have that chance to have the evaluation done, evaluating their individual circumstance. And there is a big difference between someone who comes in and shows genuine remorse and someone who continues to come back over and over again.
Thank you.
Similar to Judge Melnick, I cannot give an opinion on the book in question. I think the criminal justice system at this point just needs to start analyzing how to make communities safe. And I think for too long, there's been an approach that to make communities safe, we always have to incarcerate individuals, and the longer the incarceration means the community is going to be safer. And the truth of the matter is, not every crime is a violent crime. There's certain crimes that frustrate the community. There's certain crimes that are a danger to the community. And those crimes that are frustrating the community, we have to use the criminal justice system to better get those people committing those crimes in a position where they can succeed. So we need to start analyzing how to do that, whether it's through the use of mentorship programs, whether it's for the use of trying to make sure everybody's getting a GED, everybody's working in those situations. If we can put the people in the positions to succeed who are committing crimes, who have addiction issues, who have mental health issues, if those types of people can be put in the position to succeed as opposed to imposing low, felony sentences on non-violent offenses, then I think the criminal justice system can actually be used to make the community safer while at the same time improving the citizens within the community. The people who are a danger to you due to using guns or shooting or things like that, the criminal justice system has to punish those people in order to take them out of the community to ensure the safety of the people in the room. But I think there are ways that the criminal justice system can be used to work on improving those people with mental health issues, drug addiction issues. We just got to look ourselves in the face and figure out the best way to do it.
I haven't read the book, but I can tell you as a court-appointed attorney representing juveniles and also a court-appointed attorney as a guardian ad litem, a lot of the cases that would come before me had to do with what income the parents had or didn't have. I can tell you, I've represented kids in every different section in Montgomery County, Ohio, and a lot of it had to do with either they came from a single-parent family household or they were being raised by their grandparents. And I saw that directly, how that did have an influence, where they didn't have the safeguard set up, where they may have been going to the city of Dayton schools, and the child missed 14 days in the first semester of schools, and the school wasn't reporting it, versus I may have had a child in Centerville City Schools, and after 7 days, the school was reporting that child for truancy. So I can tell you firsthand that the schools handle it differently as a GAL that I've seen, and also as a court-appointed attorney. So a lot of it, in my experience, came from the resources or lack of resources that the families I helped out or the children that I was appointed. I can tell you, if you elect me as judge, I will do my best to treat every child individually and treat them with respect like I've done so far in my career. Also the families. I think the families are going through some of the most toughest times when they come into juvenile court. And we've got to respect the families, but we also have to realize every child coming before the court is for different reasons. I've represented children going to school and getting suspended 5 minutes after being in school because they went to school hungry. And, the court was looking into it, and I met with them as a GAL and found out that the child didn't have any food and went to school, and during breakfast, they beat up another child to get his or her school or lunch or breakfast. And so every child that comes before the court is individual. And so you've got to look at some of the reasons why these children or families are before the court. And I think my background helps me do that. Thank you.
I as well have not read the book. However, as I told you previously, I've been an attorney for 26 years. 20 of those I've spent in juvenile court. Juvenile court is where I want to be, is where I've always wanted to be. And during my time there, as an assistant prosecuting attorney, I prosecuted juveniles, but I also identified some of the issues, the underlying issues that were contributing to their delinquency. I served on committees. One of them was Disproportionate Minority Contact Committee. And so the court is recognizing that there is a disproportionate number of African-American juveniles coming into the system. And they're creating programs to divert those kids from having criminal records, which could follow them the rest of their lives. I was part of that program, and I was also part of the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative. What the court was finding through the research was that locking kids up was not fixing them. Our juveniles are coming back out into our neighborhoods, and so we have to rehabilitate them. And that's exactly what I've been doing with the court, hand in hand, over the last 20 years that I have been working in the court. Currently, I'm a magistrate and I preside over civil custody cases. Those are cases where the parents were not married but had a child. And that is, I'm seeing now the parents who are associated with the children who are committing the offenses in Montgomery County. And so the decisions that I am making right now may determine the future of those children, because do they live with their mother or do they live with their father? Who's going to nurture these children more? Who is going to take care of them? Who is going to provide for them? So thank you very much.
Well, I haven't read that book either, and it sounds like we should all put that on our reading list. I'm the father of 3 fairly young daughters, and frankly, I don't have the opportunity to read as many books these days as I would like. I enjoy reading books, but I find myself reading more and more blogs, frankly, keeping up with current events and politics with blogs. One of the blogs that I've been reading for quite some time is from authored by a professor of Black Studies at the University of Dayton Law School, Bernalia Randall. She has a blog called Race, Racism, and the Law, which always has very interesting and unique perspectives. So I tended to get my sort of current events and opinions that way, but certainly we'll add that book to the list. You know, going back to the original question, which was, I believe the book was about the new Jim Crow, or there was a reference to that. I'll have to see what the author says about that, but I guess, you know, as I look at things, you know, Jim Crow was an overt system of discrimination where the discrimination was written right into the law. It doesn't seem that that's the main thing America faces. I think what America faces is covert discrimination, hidden discrimination, discrimination where things maybe appear equal on the surface, but really aren't equal if you look below the surface. Disparate outcomes, unequal results. It's covert racism that we really have to look for in America. We always have to be on the guard against overt racism, but it's what's hidden that we need to bring to life through use of statistics and modeling and things like that. So I look forward to reading the book, and but I think someone who's concerned about what's happening under the surface in the country.
I have read the book. And I had a chance to meet Michelle Alexander, and I think this is a truly groundbreaking piece of work. And I will say this without hesitation. You know, the data and the statistics demonstrate that Black and brown people are disproportionately impacted and overrepresented at every stage of the criminal justice process. I don't think this is anything that really is up in debate anymore. And so I think we have to have judges on our court that are willing to acknowledge and confront the fact that we have racial and ethnic and socioeconomic disparities in the criminal justice system. So then the question becomes, what do we do about that? And what I support and what I believe that the Court of Common Pleas has begun to get involved with is the collection of data and the analysis. Because as individuals, we each want to truly believe that we are there and acting with the best of intentions. But it is only through data collection and analysis that we can truly see patterns and that we can get to, that we have the best opportunity really to make sure that our courts are operating consistently and proportionately and without disparate impact.
Thank you. I have another question for the audience here. I would also recommend another book, Heather McGee's book, The Sum of Us. And it goes to the point about public policy, how it's made over years and how it's impacting our society today. So while you're reading those, Charlie Penner's book, I would add The Sum of Us to that. Auditor, what is the, no, that's the medical marijuana question.
I don't want me to do the medical marijuana.
What is the goal to help citizens with disabilities take advantage of the homestead opportunity in Montgomery County? and your outreach to minorities. So the question has to do with homestead opportunity in your office and your outreach to African American minority community.
All right, thank you for that question. Yeah, I mentioned that I'm running for my I'll be the sixth time I've been on the ballot running for county auditor. And so, yeah, over the years, dealing with the homestead exemption is a program that has been near and dear to us. We have, the homestead exemption provides a tax relief, significant tax relief for seniors, 65, those who are 65 and older, and for the disabled, those who are on fixed incomes. Again, it between $600 and $700 a year reduction in your property taxes. If your home is valued at $50,000, it effectively cuts your tax in half. If it's $100,000, it cuts it by a quarter. So it's been something that we have really promoted. Now, in 2007, when Ted Strickland was governor, he proposed that the homestead exemption be expanded to anyone who is 65 and older. And it was approved by the General Assembly unanimously that be provided to anyone 65 and older. And so we had, from the time that law went into effect, July 1 till October 1, we had 3 months to sign people up. That summer we signed up to my office 30,000 homeowners to participate in the homestead exemption. We refer to that to this day. We refer to that summer as the summer of love. And it was a work. We had a lot of work to reach out to people and to inform them, and we continue to do that. Now, the legislature has since cut that back and has put an income restriction on the homestead exemption. And so one thing we would like to see, encourage people to do is contact their legislator, elect these legislators here, these people running candidates here, because we would like to see that homestead exemption expanded. It was easier to administer. It was easier for people to understand when it was just merely 65 and older. And we would like to see that continue, but regardless, it has not been changed since 2007, and we would like to see it expanded, and we would do everything we can to make sure people take advantage of that. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my understanding Jessica Pizzey is no longer running. He's terminated that. So it's an open seat. So there's an open seat in the juvenile court. So that's why we have candidates running. So Jessica Pizzey, who's been on this bench for I don't know how many longer than I can imagine, is no longer running. So that's why there's an open seat. Judicial candidates, what would you do to ensure that programs like Building Bridges or similar programs continue in its efforts to serve our young people who are involved in juvenile court justice system country?
I have been engaged personally with Building Bridges. I also have been engaged in other programs that have been created by the court. Judge Busy asked me to serve on several of those committees. And over the years, I have created relationships with the good majority of the probation officers, detention workers, the other magistrates, attorneys that come in there. And so I have a good feel for a lot of people that are working in juvenile court. I'm approachable. I like to approach other people, ask them for their opinions. And I enjoy creating programs that not only divert our youth from incarceration, but also rehabilitate them and make their families stronger. So the programs that the court has developed the programs that are currently developed by the court are functioning. They are doing what they're meant to do, but there's always room for improvement. So in the 20 years that I've been there, I've been looking at that and I've been watching that and I've been creating relationships with not only the people that work there, but our people that can help us outside of the courtroom. I've been developing relationships with some of the local schools and the truant officers and also probation officers, pastors from different churches and other programs that can offer us additional help to come up with even more programs or maybe programs that meet people's needs that we haven't met yet. So I've been working on that, and that's what I will continue to work on because I think that's what keeps our our community safe. That's what makes our kids successful, and that's what helps us have strong families in our communities.
Thank you.
There was an article, Daily News, and Dr. Forward had a comment on that. The kids are in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. Crimes involving juveniles with guns. We've already surpassed that numbers back in 2020. I can tell you firsthand, dealing with families and kids, there's distrust with a lot of families that I've represented and continue to represent. The families have a lot of distrust. So there may be programs out there, but in my opinion, how do we get the families and kids to understand that there are programs out there? I think you have to build trust. And I think a lot of the families are afraid to contact the police, contact the schools, contact juvenile court if they are experiencing an issue with their son or daughter or granddaughter or grandson. And so we've got to do a great job, a better job at reaching out to some of these families and let them know there are services. Some of them are church related, some of them are non-church related. And going around for the last 6 months, there are a lot of programs out there that can try to give children the opportunity to do stuff when they get out of school. A lot of the kids that I represented, the problems came down to this: when they came home out of school, there's not a parent there to supervise the young child. And so what does the child do? That's when, at least the cases I had, that's when they would get in trouble. So we've got to do a better job at outreaching to the different communities and the families and let them know that services are available. And just because you contact with regards to the services, it doesn't mean the children's services is going to come in and take your child. It doesn't mean the court's going to come in and take your child. It doesn't mean probation department's going to take your child. We have to do a better job. In my experience, I feel like I can do that. I am endorsed by the FOP. I went around and talked to the six different fraternal orders of police, and they've all endorsed me. But that doesn't get me to where I want to be. I think a lot of times you have one shot at some of these children coming before the court. And I think we have to do a better job of connecting services with the families and services with the juveniles. And hopefully, some of these juveniles won't even need to come to court. That would be my goal. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
No? Okay. So a lot of conversation about guns. And the General Assembly has been liberalized, you know, its efforts with guns. Guns in schools, guns everywhere. Young people are picking up guns and taking them to school. Your thoughts, that the judges can, candidates and judges can answer this as well, but let me get the legislative body to answer this question on your thoughts on gun safety and the ease by which legislative bodies are putting guns on the streets and in the schools. Go ahead, as a righty, go ahead.
Oh.
So this is one of those issues that I wanted to avoid when I started running this time. Guns and abortion are two hot button issues, and both of them come to the forefront in this election cycle. I am totally pro-choice, but I also can read the Second Amendment. And I know the difference between a rifle that can fire up to 300 rounds a minute and a musket. It's time the rest of this country figured that out. Because I can't do the kind of damage with a musket that I can do with an M16. Remember, I served in a well-regulated militia. I do not believe anybody needs a semi-automatic weapon, pistol, rifle, anything, unless they're part of a well-regulated militia. And when I was in a well-regulated militia, we didn't walk around with the guns unless we're in a combat zone. And I don't want to live in a combat zone, people. So if we had a weapon, there was always somebody else with us. We were in uniform and we were training. I've seen the same thing when I've visited other countries. Trust me, Israel is a war zone. There are guys with guns on every street corner, but they're in uniform and they are in pairs. None of the people that have done any of these mass shootings were part of a well-regulated militia. Do you see the disconnect here? Now, if you want to own these weapons, you can keep them in an armory under guard, just like we did in the military. This is pretty radical, but I have a way to solve this. It's called the 14th Amendment, which guarantees us equal protection. And as long as you don't have the same protection that Mike Turner has in the federal building, or Judge Rice has in the federal building, that somebody screams and won't even let you bring in a penknife, we can't have this. Anybody can have a gun and carry it concealed without any training, without any checking, without it being part of a well-regulated militia. It is time to stop this malarkey, and anybody who ever says that it's a good idea to put a gun in a school is insane. Thank you.
I'm very disappointed, even angry about our gun laws, our loose laws in Ohio. I also believe if you want to own a firearm in your home, or you feel the castle laws protect you and your family. But when that fight moves to Kroger in a parking lot and you felt uncomfortable because somebody raised their voice and you have the right to shoot them down in the state of Ohio, I feel that that's wrong. I did go and testify 2 years ago before Stand Your Ground became a law, and I pleaded with them not to make it a law because it would disproportionately affect Black men. A Black man will get a felony, the white man will get a misdemeanor, so the Black man is never going to be able to stand his ground because he cannot carry a firearm legally. I also don't understand why we needed looser laws, because every, I guess, responsible adult who wants a gun owns a gun. So why make it a permitless state when we already, if you want a gun, you already have one? So I don't know who that benefited, other than special interest groups like the NRA. So my opponent, Phil Plummer, coming from law enforcement, has voted on everything to make us live in a less safe community. I believe that if my vehicle, I think I parked it out here in this parking lot and I walked in here. If I get a call that my car was involved in a vehicular homicide further down Salem, they know who to call. They're going to call me because it's registered to me. I can say, well, I was at a candidate forum and I can prove my vehicle was stolen. When you have guns on the street that are not permitted, have a permit or registration, it's a wild, wild west. And obviously we believe, at least the current legislators that we're trying to replace, they believe that that's okay for Ohio. I do not, and I'm going to fight it, and I'm not going to work across the line.
Well, I agree with what both David and Miranda said regarding guns and the Second Amendment. After that horrific mass shooting in Dayton, it was frankly disappointing to hear Governor DeWine prompt to do something and then promptly makes guns easier to get on the streets. And my opponent voted for both permitless carry and arming teachers again after that horrific shooting. I think it says something where all these most recent mass shootings, guns have been bought legally and they can be traced. And that says, and then gun crimes are going up, and we keep passing laws that make guns easier and easier to get. Lawmakers ask, well, why are gun crimes going up? Well, maybe it's because guns are getting easier and easier to get. There's some disconnect there that our lawmakers aren't getting, and we need lawmakers who understand that we need to restrict access. We need people who have guns to register and have the proper training. We need to make sure that guns stay out of the classroom because they don't belong in schools.
For the last 30 years or plus, our gun laws have just been eroded. I mean, I used the word liberal, and I think that it's more a level of insanity that has entered our gun law lobby and our votes. So what I think to myself, well, why is this happening? And if you look at the militarization that was going on of the police department, the militarization of what's going on of our citizenry. So why do we want to have militarized citizenry that is unregulated, as David has spoken about? Because we have Republicans that are losing power and need to have militias and need to have these hate groups as their support systems. And so it's terrifying, really, because these laws that allow people to just cross the interstate or into other states that do not have any sort of legitimate, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of spacing, but and anyways, it's something that we need to look at. We need to look at the last 30 years of laws. We need to reassess them, and we need to speak out against them. And there has got to be a way that the assembly, that the legislature can address this, because it's either a constitutional amendment that has gun legislation, I'm sorry, thank you.
Thank you. Let me do a lightning round. I have 10 minutes. And several questions about the issue of the Dobbs decision and abortion. So let's just 1 minute or less, okay? Elevator speech, what do you support choice? Do you support the woman's right to choose? And what would you do? This is why it's tough for judicial candidates. You can't really comment too much on this. So let's start here. If you feel comfortable, because some of you have said your position. So if you want to, I'll go back to you. If not, I'll go with the legislative candidates. So you want to start here?
Well,
If you had an opinion.
well, I definitely have an opinion.
So let's do 1 minute round.
Well, it'll take less than 1 minute because I am pro-choice, have been my whole life, and think this is women's rights. And this is the first time in history that we've taken away rights from women. A whole, half of our society all of a sudden doesn't have rights that we counted on yesterday or before this decision. And although I can't do a lot as a county commissioner, but as an individual, I can do a lot. And I think what we all need to do, and especially women, is to show up on November 8th and start to send a signal that enough is enough. We have rights, we need to have them restored, because that's actually better for families and children in the long run.
When Dodd was announced, Senator Stephen Huffman announced on June 24th, or that June 24th would become Life Day. And it was a celebration of the decision. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to run. The Dodd decision, it was going to create forced pregnancies. Women are going to have their babies. How are these laws going to be enforced? Are we asking our police to arrest women? Are we asking our police to arrest doctors and nurses? Are they going to be going to court systems? I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous, this whole decision, and it's coming from a rogue Supreme Court. And so we have to look at the fact that the loss of this right is going to have to go to the constitutional level. I mean, because every time it goes to the legislature, it gets pulled out. Thank you.
So I am proudly pro-choice. I've been endorsed by Planned Parenthood and Pro-Choice Ohio, two organizations I'm very proud to receive their endorsement by. Abortion is a women's rights issue, but it's also a human rights issue. And this will not be the end of the attack on women. They're going to come for contraceptives, they're going to come for in vitro fertilization, and will they criminalize miscarriages as well. This is an attack on women's health and human rights, and our state legislature needs to stay out of it because Ohio is a pro-choice state. And as a state legislator, I will work to repeal that awful 6-week abortion ban law and work to enact a constitutional amendment to make sure that Ohio State is a pro-choice state.
I'm going to fight to protect women and their right to choose, allow women to be heard and think for themselves. The Heartbeat bill was signed off by my opponent. And I just honestly believe that women have suffered enough in silence and when they vocalized that they were suffering. So I'm definitely pro-choice. And I believe that reproductive rights, reproductive decisions belong inside a woman's house.
All of the forces are pro-choice. But I'm gonna tell you that the only way this is gonna change is if every woman goes out to vote and votes pro-choice, despite everything else. Because Ohio's been rigged. Our districts are rigged, they're unconstitutional. How the Supreme Court got this way should have been stopped. We need to fix the Supreme Court. We need to understand why Merrick Garland didn't get approved and Amy Coney Barrett did. And we need to take that stain of Trump and flush it down the drain. The man is a criminal. All the people that have been following him are criminals. He committed treason. He started an insurrection, and don't you disbelieve it. And we need to vote Democrat all the way down and tell Joe Manchin to shove it. So Democrat and then Democrat all the way down for William Trump. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere. We have one order of business to complete before we leave, and something we need to bring the general body back to do. So nobody should leave.
Well, that would be for this group here, because the judges can't answer the question by decriminalizing medical marijuana. And we would be to the legislature or members of the U.S. House, okay? But for the judicial candidates and for the current judges, we are a part of the Montgomery County Jail Coalition. And we were part of a question that some of you received as related to bail reform and reducing the population of the county jail. We've been pushing the county commissioners, and they say it's the judges, you know. But really, the jail is overcrowded. And we have been somewhat assured that the county commissioners aren't looking at building a larger jail, but we need to find other means. Mental health is one of the questions that some people had, mental health services. Put somebody in jail who should be a forensic is not going to help them get any better. So we are very much a part of the Montgomery County Jail Coalition. We're going to continue to push that issue. In communication with our county commissioners, whatever they do should not be to build a bigger battery, because you know the old baseball saying, if you build it, you will come. We don't want them to build it. We want them to be a part of mental health. And that's where you come in as judges, to making sure that we send people to the mental health facilities. We have a fond memory of juvenile court judge Arthur O. Fisher, common pleas court judges Carl Kessler, who looked at the criminal justice system and put in place those safeguards. That's why we have the center we have out here at Day Rehab. It was C.J. McGlynn and Carl Kessler who came up with that community base. So I just let you know that we are a civil rights organization. We're nonpartisan. But some of these issues we need for you to take heed to and understand where we're coming from. As my colleagues say, these are our babies. We don't need to be locking them up. We can send them to a mental health and get better. So let me just say that to you as I wrap up. I want to thank all of you for your questions. You made this a marvelous show, marvelous opportunity to give yourself a round of applause for that. Mr. President. Okay. I want to thank my team who helped me with the timing and the Q&A, and the Soros who helped me once again with the Q&A. I don't want to start naming names. I'm going to miss somebody. Some are family, some are friends. So I want to thank them. I remind you early voting, and Ohio has made so simple for you to vote.
And so I would encourage you, as you said, in Chicago, vote early, vote often, but vote. As I mentioned before, we have, if NAACP can do anything for the nation, that is to change the makeup of the U.S. Senate. And that's one of our goals, is that we're not endorsing anything. We're simply saying, if we can deliver the votes in the U.S. Senate race, we can make a difference in the nation. So we encourage people to pay attention to that race and vote your conscience, as well as the three ladies and two of the three ladies who are here today. We want to thank them for being here. We've invited all the other candidates to the state conference, and some came and some didn't. But we had a great time here this evening. So thank you, Pastor and Grace Methodist, United Methodist. Thank you for opening up your house for us once again. President Sullivan, thank you all for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you to our chairman, Chairman Roberts, for putting together this distinguished panel. We do this every single year. And if you can just imagine about, when we think about politics and when we think about government and people who are going to regulate you either through governmental choices and or through the court system, it's vitally important that you understand the individuals that you're voting for. And a lot of times when people vote, they don't even look at the judge races sometimes. Okay, and this is something when you think about a little little skeet, that is doing something wrong that needs some help. You got to make certain that you are voting your values and people are valuing your vote. Okay, so at the end of the day, it becomes that you want to make certain that you understand what these people stand. And if you don't understand what they stand, that's problematic for you. It's problematic for Billy, John, Tina, and Susie, to use some proper names. So at the end of the day, it becomes, if you do not understand the power of your vote, that's problematic for you. If you don't exercise your right to vote, and you don't take somebody else to the polls with you, that's problematic as well. So we must make certain that we do everything in our power to understand each one of these candidates, I believe, are on our website. It goes straight to their page that talks about what they're about. So you can click on that picture and you can see what they're about. You can see where they stand. And I want to encourage you to do that. Do your work. November the 8th will be here soon, right? It's not too far off. So we just want to make certain that you do what you need to do as it relates to voting on November 8th. So then we're going to go out of the monthly community meeting, but we are going to reopen. I'll entertain a motion because we forgot to do something during our general membership meeting. And that is, we have one action item that we forgot to do. So I will entertain a motion so we can reopen up the general membership meeting for a moment, and then we'll do one action item and then close it. Okay, moved by Brother Terrell, second by Attorney Leffler, that we reopen. So Madam Secretary, did you get that? And this is not something that we customarily do because it's something, but this right here is kind of time sensitive in nature. So a few months back, I made an appointment of Elijah Rashid. Can you stand? I made an appointment of him to serve as your art curator for our organization. He's well into the arts, and there's some things that we want to do in the arts as an organization that he's going to spearhead for us. But at the time of that appointment, we didn't realize that his membership was not valid at that time. So with that being the case, we want to make certain that, now I didn't have to say that, but my conscience will be a hold of me to know that it was not done properly. So with that, inside of my report, I will put down there the appointment of Elijah Rashid again in my report now that his membership is back active as our art curator. So with that, entertain a motion to amend the president's report as just stated with the third additional action item. Moved by Stacy Benson Taylor, second by Eric Ellington. Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. If you can just come up and kind of tell us your vision in 2 minutes, like Chairman Roberts says, two minutes, as it relates to what your vision is, for the arts coming from the NAACP.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? My name is Elijah Muhammad Rashid. I've been in the arts for more than 30 years now. I know I look really, really young, but I've been around for a long time. One of the main things that we do is we bring in really well-known artists and art projects, and we donate the money to the youth program for the NAACP. We also find a way to open up, homes and put art on the walls and draw attention to things like women abuse, things like the Roe versus Wade situation that's going on. A lot of things are done in the arts that typically does not register with just a regular fight. Sometimes the arts is not just a painting. Sometimes art is a song. And a song could get a movement moving. A piece of artwork could get a situation, to be a clear situation. So it's not just a painting on the wall. One of the other things that we do is we also donate the funds, not only, to our community, but to other communities, and we highlight other artists who are trying to make it, in the art. So those are just a few of the things that we're doing, and we're looking for a very prosperous year for the NAACP in the Dayton branch. Thank you very much.
Where are you from?
Originally, I am from a small town that Michael Jackson's from. I'm from Gary, Indiana, originally. And I moved from Gary, Indiana to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, then over to Florida, and now I'm in Dayton. And I've raised over $5 million doing what I do to help out the communities. And I like to do that also right here in Dayton, because you guys have made a home for me, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
So that will close our general business meeting. And really, that should have been on Facebook, but if y'all seen it, y'all seen it.